The 2024 NBA draft has been considered one of the most underwhelming classes in years, but after taking a deeper look at where everyone ended up, there were quite a few players you could consider a steal. Since the class wasn't valued very highly, it caused a lot of teams to draft for fit rather than the best available player. So a good amount of teams ended up with players they didn't expect to ever get, and the other teams got players that fit within their system perfectly. I feel like this class will be a lot better than people think, and the fact that it was considered so underwhelming actually helped teams find the best fit. Also, I know I definitely left some players out. These are just the steals I like the most personally. Starting off with the back-to-back national championship winner, Donovan Clingan. At 7'2", Donovan is a really good interior big. For a Trailblazers team that lacked any defense whatsoever last season, he's a really solid pickup. Fit and injury concerns caused him to slide to the 7th pick, but he was considered one of the top players in the class. I feel like I'm one of the few people that doesn't hate the Blazers backcourt for the most part, and I think Clingan will help them out a lot. He moves extremely well for his height and has a really nice touch around the rim. He's all over both sides of the floor and can get a shot off no matter where he's at in the paint. I don't think he's going to come in and immediately replace DeAndre Ayton, but I think he will be really good off the bench, although he doesn't help with their spacing issue. If he can stay healthy, I think at the 7th pick he was a very solid pickup. Another player I want to mention happens to be the very next pick. Rob Dillingham was projected to go around the 8th pick, but that's not why I consider him a steal. The fact that the Timberwolves were able to get him with a 2031 first-round pick and a swap seems crazy to me. The Spurs already drafted Stephon Castle with the 4th pick and decided to trade Dillingham for a pick that's 7 years away. For the Timberwolves, this was an absolute no-brainer. I think if other teams knew they were willing to give it up for that little, then they probably would have made a move. Anthony Edwards and Rob Dillingham will easily be one of the most entertaining backcourts in the league, even if he's not starting. Rob's ceiling is incredibly high. He's the shiftiest guard in the class and is a really good scorer. His playmaking got a lot better over the course of his one season at Kentucky, and even if he isn't the best defender, he's a hustler. He plays organized basketball like it's street ball, which is super fun to watch, and he's so unpredictable on offense that defenders constantly have to stay on their toes. Rob playing for a loaded team helps out everybody. He'll have more space to create him or his teammates an open shot, and opposing teams have yet another highly skilled offensive player that they have to deal with. Not to mention their other first-round pick in Terrence Shannon Jr., who I'm also a fan of. Just win-win pickups all around, and if I was a Wolves fan, I would be very happy. This next player may come as a surprise to some people, but with the 12th pick in the draft, OKC selected Nikola Topic, who before he tore his ACL was considered one of the best players in the class. He'll be joining an OKC roster that already has a ton of guards, but he'll most likely miss the whole coming season. This exact situation happened with Chet Holmgren, and he turned out to be amazing, although he was valued a lot higher. Nikola Topic is a 6'6" guard from Serbia that is a very solid scorer and an even better playmaker. He has a few question marks when it comes to shooting, but his ability to drive to the basket helps him out a lot. He averaged over 18 points and 7 assists while shooting 52% from the field and 29% from 3. Really strong numbers for an 18-year-old going against grown men. I think he'll be a really solid player once he comes back from his injury, and just the value of a player like him at the 12th pick feels like a steal to me. Sam Presti's a genius come draft time, so I'm not going to start questioning him now. But with the 17th pick in the draft, the Los Angeles Lakers selected Dalton Knecht. For a lot of people, they consider Dalton to be the biggest steal of the whole draft, and I really don't blame them for saying that. The draft literally lined up perfectly for the Lakers to get him. Most Laker fans were hoping to draft a big, but when Dalton was left on the board, it became a no-brainer. He's an elite shooter at 6'6", and despite being on the shorter side, he's a really solid wing. The biggest knock on Dalton was his age, but for the Lakers, age really doesn't matter. If anything, it's a benefit to have more experience in this certain situation. The Lakers are trying to win right now, and a guy that's 23 years old is going to be more skilled and less rattled than someone that's 19 or 20. I don't know how many minutes he'll be getting. It really depends on the moves the Lakers make in the coming months. But having Knecht for depth is a very solid pickup, especially with how injured the Lakers always seem to be. The next player I'm going to mention has some people with mixed feelings. With the 29th pick in the draft, the Utah Jazz selected Isaiah Collier, who had a really solid season at USC despite how much of a mess that program was. Isaiah was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school and was the #1 player in his entire class. The highly anticipated team at USC was pretty disappointing, but Isaiah was one of the few bright spots from that season. He averaged 16 points and 4 assists throughout 27 games, but missed some times due to a hand injury. He was essentially tied with USC's other leading scorer Boogie Ellis in points per game. And if you haven't noticed already, for a 6'3" point guard, he's built like a tank. Isaiah plays a physical style of basketball on both sides of the floor. He has a really nice handle and is extremely creative when it comes to scoring and playmaking. There's times where he'll do too much with the ball and end up out of control, but that will only improve the more he plays. He's another one of those athletic guards with a questionable jump shot, but the upside he brings as one of the last picks in the first round is definitely worth it. The Jazz also got Kyle Flipowski with the 32nd pick, who is another guy a lot of people are considering a steal. I'm not going to go too much into him, but he was a first-round prospect that fell due to a situation with his girlfriend / former babysitter that's 8 years older than him. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. Great player though. With the 34th pick in the draft, the New York Knicks selected Marquette point guard Tyler Kolek. He spent 4 years in college and got better every year he played. Tyler's someone I was really high on this season, and I honestly probably would have called him a steal no matter where he got picked. But not only did the Knicks draft him, which I think is a great fit, but they also got him with an early 2nd round pick. He's a pure playmaker that just makes everyone around him better. He controls the game really well as a point guard should and is truly an elite passer. His change of pace makes him really difficult to guard, plus he can score in a million different ways. Tyler is on the smaller side at 6'1", but if there's anyone that knows what it's like to be a smaller guard that spent multiple years in college, it would be Jalen Brunson. He will definitely be targeted on defense, but I think his ability to be a floor general on offense makes up for it. The last person I want to talk about is someone that was picked a lot later in the draft. I wanted to mention at least one other player in the 2nd round, and honestly, there were a couple different players I would consider a steal. With the 47th pick, the Pelicans acquired Antonio Reeves after being selected and traded by the Magic. He spent 5 years in college, but is someone that can make an impact on day one. Most recently, he led a team with the 3rd overall pick Reed Shepherd and 8th overall pick Rob Dillingham in scoring. He was a starter over both of them and had an incredible year. As an almost 6'5" guard, Antonio averaged over 20 points while shooting 51% from the field and a whopping 45% from 3 on almost 6 attempts a game. If his free throw percentage was 4% higher, then he would have finished the season with 50-40-90 shooting splits. I know that Kentucky team underperformed when it mattered the most, but he absolutely balled out in their March Madness game. Antonio has a really good mid-range game for a college player and attempted and made more floaters than any player in the draft, which is the thing I love about his game the most. In big playoff games, you see how much more that mid-range game for any player becomes. It's honestly what separates the league's best scorers. Being able to just cook in the mid-range opens up a whole new world offensively. The biggest question with him is what he'll look like on defense, but other than that, I think he brings a lot of value for the 47th pick. But those are just a few names I would consider steals, and again, I think people will be surprised with how this class performs. And at the end of the day, we won't know if these players are truly steals until we actually get to see them play. But let me know down in the comments who you think is a steal, because there are definitely more out there. Please leave a like on the video to support the channel and subscribe if you're new for more basketball videos just like this one.